It is such an honor and a privilege today to have Raul Reyes with us. I'm so glad to have you for one of the first podcasts that we're doing on sexual integrity. You know, with Recovery Life now, our main focus is helping men and couples overcome pornography addiction and sex addiction. And so I'm excited. Raul is an incredible person. I've known you for, I don't know, probably
10 years, 10, 12 years?
Well, I think
more than
they've
that.
been together for like 17 years. So yeah.
Even longer.
Yep. So we're kind of family. My sister married your son, and that's pretty cool. I'm going to read a little bit of Raul's bio here. He is a local and national and international reputation for Christ-centered pro-life message designed to equip the church for life. 40 years in sanctity of human life ministry. It's probably a couple years old, isn't it? Married to Chris for how long?
44 years.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Wow. Raul has led some of the nation's largest pro-life ministries in the U.S., including New Life Solutions in Florida, Life Network in Colorado, and Choice Pregnancy Center in Arizona. You have done some international work, which I'd love to hear more about today, and just hear a little bit about what you're up to. He's written this book called The African Awakening. Fabulous. I mean, I sat down and read almost all of it in one sitting and then devoured the rest of it the following day. But just an incredible book about life, and especially life in Africa. So yeah, welcome. My goodness.
Thank you, Don.
It's
a privilege for me to be one of your first podcasts. This is cool.
Yeah.
Normally, we're up on stage leading worship, and
That's
you're
right.
an amazing drummer. I really enjoy playing with you a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, it is such a pleasure. Well, I was going to ask you a few questions just about your life personally as we kind of get rolling here too. But just like, one of my big questions was you've got a plethora of guitars, and I'm curious, which one is your favorite to play generally? Maybe that's a hard.
Well, I have different guitars for different songs. So certainly, and I do a lot of finger picking. So I've got an Ibanez Spanish Classical, which is really sweet for doing the Spanish picking. And then there's some songs that are just perfect for 12 strings. I got two different 12-string guitars because sometimes you do open tuning, and 12-string guitars are really hard to retune. So I leave one in one tuning. And then I've got two dreadnoughts, regular 6 strings, and one is one of my all-time favorites, which is an Alvarez Yari, which is basically a handmade Japanese guitar. It's super nice. But my favorite guitar is I have a Yamaha Gold label, which is it's handmade, and it's a top of the line Yamaha. And it's a little pricey, but it's everyone that has reviewed it said it plays like a guitar that's worth 3 times as much.
Wow.
So that's the one that I bring to church, and I play whenever I have the privilege of being with the worship team.
That's so cool.
It's a sweet instrument.
Wow.
I have smaller hands, so a guitar that's got a little bit smaller neck is really nice for me.
Okay.
That one does, yeah.
That is so cool. I also have one other question for you, just kind of to get to know you a little bit, because we don't usually get to sit down like this.
No,
it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, do you have a favorite childhood memory?
Oh my gosh. So I had a very weird childhood. I was born in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
But we moved to the Bronx, of all places.
Oh my gosh.
In New York City when I was 1 year old. So I was there till I was 12.
Okay.
So it's not an environment where you get to go outside and play in this, it's
Huh.
urban. So my favorite memories from that childhood would be, uh, for a variety of reasons. I grew up a lot with my grandmother and grandfather, and they had 9 kids.
Hmm.
Right? And obviously they're my uncles, and they're considerably older, but they all sang and played guitar.
Okay.
So it was absolutely normal
Huh.
to sit around this tiny little living room in the Bronx in New York City, listening to my uncles sing 3-part harmonies. They were amazing. They all could have been professional. Playing guitar, lots of different guitars, playing a lot of percussion instruments that they would be
Wow.
playing to accompany. My grandfather would play the accordion,
Hmm.
and my uncles would sing and play, and they would sing 3-part harmonies, and they were amazing. And that, I'm sure, is why I gravitated towards playing and
Hmm.
singing myself, is because that's part of my culture and heritage.
Wow. Wow. Do you remember how old were you when you first remember singing with them? Or
Oh, probably 4 or 5 years old.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
and they
beautiful.
still
Hmm.
they still play and sing.
Oh.
They don't all live close together, but when they get together, they still do, and they still sound amazing. I have
Wow.
recordings of them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, they're so good."
What would it be like to be a fly on the wall there? That sounds really cool. I
Yeah,
love that. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's
certainly.
so good. So good. Well, I mean, I consider you to be an incredible expert on on marriage, on human sexuality, because of you've been in this line of work for how many years have you been
I
doing?
started in 1983,
Okay. Okay.
so
So yeah,
so it's been a few years.
yeah,
Yeah,
over 40 years.
well over 40 years. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, working with couples, working with unwed mothers, working with a whole gamut of
Teaching pastors
people.
a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've developed curriculum over the years. I think what I've heard about most, and from your book here too, is just about Africa in the last several years.
Well, the curriculum is for the church
Okay.
in general to equip pastors and church leaders with sanctity of human life training. But the Lord has opened up the doors in Africa. I mean,
Mm.
Africa's got the largest Christian church on earth.
Mm.
Second comes South America with around 600 million Christians, but there's 640 million Christians in Africa,
Wow.
and they're just
Oh
so
my
hungry.
gosh.
They're just
Mm.
so. When I started our ministry, Life Equip Global, 6 years ago, I'm like, okay, this is for the church, and I thought it was going to be for the church in the U.S.
Mm.
because the church in the U.S. so desperately needs to be awoken. It needs to wake up, right, to the horror of this, of what's happened to the babies and to the women, and to how men are abdicating their role as protectors, and instead they become predators. So I thought, yeah, this is great for the church in the U.S., but it was the church in Africa that, as soon as they started hearing about this, they're like, we want this, and it just
Mm.
has become just grown and grown and grown, and it's on a huge trajectory of still increasing every month. We've trained now about 650 pastors in Africa, and when we train them, part of the training is that then they will teach others. So the whole thing is, this is a train the trainer situation. So I'm not doing it so that they can then walk away and say, I've got some training.
Sure.
No, we do it so that they walk away and they immediately start
Mm.
teaching the class to others. So we don't know
Mhm.
how many thousands of pastors now have been trained. We just know that we're
Mm.
training the pastors. But yeah, so Africa, why Africa? Because God is working in Africa.
Love it.
That's
Yeah.
why.
So
Mhm.
good. So, so good. And I feel like you have that global 10,000 foot view of what is going on with families, with within, especially maybe especially in the Christian community, but also how culture is impacting marriages and families around the world. You talk a lot about that in your book. But yeah, I'm kind of curious. Obviously, I'm more in the pornography and sex addiction world,
Mm-hmm.
working with people in that, and I probably have a little bit more of the boots on the ground right here,
Mm-hmm.
working with individuals and couples and groups in that particular niche. And so, but I'm curious, like, how do you feel like, um, yeah, I'm curious, what are some of the things that you've put into your course on, you said you've developed a course on pornography, you've
Not on
developed some
pornography, but on
curriculum.
sexual abstinence and sexual integrity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what can you tell me about that?
Well, it just seems there's a commercial, a Staples commercial, I believe it is, and it's got a big red button. And whenever you need anything, you push the red button, and it solves all your problems.
Absolutely.
Well, Satan has a red button, and it's sex, and it's just amazing how foolish we are as human beings. It's such a powerful drive, and he just pushes that button, and we mess up. You know,
Okay. That's wow.
and
Okay.
it's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's just like so. Yeah. So my primary focus is the sanctity of life, and then one of the primary consequences of rejecting the sanctity of life is the greatest killing of innocent human beings that has ever occurred in recorded history, and that's abortion. And that's to the best of our knowledge, 73 million. It's just such a staggeringly high number.
Mm.
We should never say 73 million
million.
abortions. We should say 73 million people whose lives are ended by abortion every
Mm.
year.
Wow.
All right. So
Every
so
year.
that's every year. That's every
Holy
year.
cow.
So in 10 years, you're talking 730, 750 million.
Mm.
It's just staggering. And then you start, then you part of my ministry is called, divided into prevention, intervention, and restoration, right?
Mm.
So intervention is intervening, helping someone who is pregnant. They don't know what to do. They don't want to be pregnant. They don't think they can be a mother. They don't want to be a father for whatever reason. And we intervene with words of truth, hope, knowledge, right? Encouragement, so that they can find a way to make a decision for life. That's intervention. But prevention is equipping the people, but primarily the church. I mean, you really aren't going to equip the world unless first you've equipped the church. It's the church that's going to equip their neighbors, their friends, their families, right? So we have to equip the church with prevention, which is what is prevention? It's preventing unplanned pregnancies, sexually transmitted disease, rape, abuse, sexual exploitation, all of that, pornography, preventing all of it by teaching what the Word of God has to say about sex and of sexual integrity. And what does that mean? Biblical sexual integrity.
Mm.
And if we don't, the sexual drive is probably right up there with hunger and thirst. It may, I mean, I don't know which one. It depends upon the time of day, right? It may be a higher drive.
Mm.
And when we teach this, it's really pretty basic stuff. It's not rocket science. When we teach young men, young women, especially young men, right, what God intends about their sexuality, then really they grow up to be protectors. They grow up to be soldiers, firefighters. They grow up to be the people in the community who will lay down their life for someone else, even though they're perfect strangers. Right now, what's going on in California and Los Angeles, where we have young men that are going over there, and they know, hey, somebody could throw a rock and kill me, but they're doing it because they love the nation, and they are protectors. That's what happens when we channel this drive that we have as men. It's not just the sexual drive is not just about sex. It really shows itself in all sorts of areas as a man, and a man who provides, who protects, who cares. But that drive is so powerful that when we don't channel it properly, then it overflows and we become a predator, right? And predators, whether they be physically violent or not violent, predators are people who say, I see it, I like it, I want it, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And of course, it starts with just a visual kind of feeding that. But we know that very quickly for men, it overflows from feeding that lust, right? You go from love, which is what God intends, to lust, and it overflows. And then pretty soon, yeah, then you're at a strip joint. And then soon that's not going to be enough. And now you're looking at prostitutions. And then that's not enough. And then you're looking at people abusing their own children, abusing their own children.
Yeah.
The sexual exploitation, people buying little girls and then selling them around the world. I mean, the amount of perversity and corruption that happens is so filthy that we can't even begin to talk about it because it's just so disgusting. We can mention it generally, but we don't want to ever go into the details of explaining what it is because of it. So prevention, the foundation of it is realizing that young men and young women have to be taught. They will be taught. The question is, who's going to teach them? Is it going to be the parents? Is it going to be a Christian influence? Or is it going to be the music, the media? Is it going to be the internet? Is it going to be the neighbor? They're going to be taught, and we need to, through the church, decide the church is the one that needs to teach parents so that parents can teach children.
Sure. You mentioned the difference between lust and love. Can you say more about that? What do you see as the difference between that?
Love is unselfish. Lust is totally
you talk
selfish.
about the drive, and we have this drive. Is this drive horrible? We just need to shut her down,
love is an unselfish. I think we're all basically sinful people. And I don't know why the sin aspect is so prevalent over the holiness aspect. I don't know, but I just think that we're selfish. We're selfish people. I mean, children. If you leave children to their own devices, then this little child is going to go and take that one little child's toy. Even
Sure.
We're just selfish. And when it comes to sex, unless we're taught. And unless the word of God comes into us, then we are selfish. And so lust is all about, this feels good and I like it, so I want to do it, and I want to do as much of it as I possibly can. Where love is, this person that God has brought into my life, my job is to minister to them, to equip them, encourage them, exhort them. Love. I think that the word love is so corrupted, and I don't mean necessarily in a bad way. It's just corrupted in that it doesn't mean what God intends it to be, because we hear songs and we hear music and everything is love, love, love. What does that mean? But what did God mean when he said to love your neighbor? What does it mean when God says that he loves us? I think we as Americans, certainly me as a musician, it's all about the emotion. Oh, love! I love her. I love the girl. And God's going, no. Love is an action. Love is something so much more than a feeling. Because people get married, they love each other, and then, hey, I don't think I love you anymore, so now we're not going to get. People get divorced like people change socks. It's like seriously. That's not a marriage. I've had shirts that last longer than that, So love, we have to learn what love is, but love is very, very unselfish, which is against our human nature.
Sure.
But lust goes right with our human nature. It's completely selfish. It's you want to be self-satisfying. You're not really concerned about what's going on in the other person's life. It's all about what's going on in my life and I'm sorry, this feels good. So
Hmm.
if it doesn't work for you, that's kind of too bad because it works for me.
Hmm. Okay. Well, how do you feel like pornography has impacted society? I mean, when I think about the shift, I feel like, you know, cell phones came out when I was a teenager, kind of a late teen. And I feel like that shift, and the internet came out around that same, maybe a few years prior to that, right around the same time frame. And then I think it was in college when, iPhones came out with their touch screens and different things like that. But like, I think that really shifted the world
Sure,
of porn and sexuality
sure.
from a place of having to go down the street to go get it, like almost just like you would have to go down the street to get alcohol or a street drug.
Yeah,
But now you don't have to go looking for it; it's in your pocket
that's,
twenty four
that's right.
seven.
No,
What do you, I'm
no,
curious
yeah, you've
for
got it nailed.
you, how is this? You got to see it a lot sooner than that. So how do you feel like that
Well,
shift has
all over the
happened?
world, a young person had to, and it was a lot harder to find what we call pornography back, just naked women. It was way harder to find all over the world, especially there's a lot of poverty. People are not going to be spending a whole lot of money on that. So somebody might have a magazine, and that magazine would then get passed around and around and around, and it would end up,
Hmm.
be underneath somebody's bed or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's where it was. And that was the way it was, what, 50, 60, 70 years ago. That's and from the beginning of time.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, technology now, Satan has brought, and let's make sure we understand, this is a satanic attack against
Hmm.
men. When men follow God, the whole family follows God. It's something like
Hmm.
93%
Hmm.
of the families when a man accepts the Lord. And
Sure.
it's something like when the mother does, it's like 17%. It's just huge when a
Hmm.
man accepts. So Satan has
Yeah.
attacked men. So yeah, so he multiplied technology. I believe he's behind helping to, and which of course technology can be used for good or for evil, but
Hmm.
the number of abortion, oh, I'm sorry, of pornographic websites is staggering. It's something like 85% of all websites in the world
Wow.
are pornographic. And of
That's
course,
amazing.
again, just like abortion, the physical aspect of it is financial.
Hmm.
The spiritual aspect is there's a satanic
Hmm.
influence behind it. But in terms of what most people see, well, there's a, oh my gosh, a huge amount of money. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't even know how many young women now have their own setups just like this, and they take
Yeah.
off their clothes, and people get a subscription,
Right.
and that's how they make their living. You
Yeah.
know, so women, in fact, 15 to 18% of pornography users are women.
Hmm.
So it's not just men, and you know this stuff way more than I do. So
Sure.
people think, oh man, men are the ones. It's not just men; it's
Hmm.
women. But yeah, the technology, the phone, and I teach pastors every day, and when I teach them, there's a section on sex, and certainly we touch upon pornography. The fact that this can be the greatest tool for sharing Christ, because you can use this to share testimonies, to show
Hmm.
pictures of people whose lives have changed, but you can also use this, like you said, no one is with me, and at 24 hours a day, I can have access to this poison that is an addiction, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the more I see it, the more I need to see it, and it's
Hmm.
it's it's a diminishing return.
Hmm.
What satisfied me yesterday
Hmm.
doesn't satisfy me enough today, so I have to see more, and then it
Yeah.
becomes more and more. It's
Yeah.
just disgusting, and yet, and we of course hate ourselves and beat ourselves up for
Hmm.
getting there. I mean, it's something I've
Sure.
struggled with.
A
Right
big
now, thank
shame
God,
cycle. Yeah.
I'm in a good place right now. But it's kind of like being an alcoholic. You can never say, "Oh, I'm done. I could never do that again." I'm like, no, I have to be on my watch 24 hours a day.
Sure, sure. Yeah. What do you see? I'm curious from your 10,000 foot view. I mean, I have done a video or two about how to tell, how do you know if you're in a, if you're, if this is just a struggle or if you actually have an addiction. But from your point of view, what would you say defines, this is kind of a struggle and, oh, this is really a big deal. This is an addiction for
I
somebody.
think that you could answer that a whole lot better than I could.
Sure.
But I was looking up what the definition of pornography is.
Mm.
And pornography is anything that, any image, anything that you use that to make sex, to create a feeling of lust inside of you.
Mm.
It just, so it could be somebody completely clothed. It doesn't even have to be naked, right? It's just
Sure.
anything that you're looking at that instead of it bringing you closer to God, what it's doing is building up feelings of lust, which are selfish
Sure.
and all about the self.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when there's probably some kind of a continuum, like on a 1 to 100 scale, and it's like, oh well, I looked at this one video one time and I haven't done it for 10 years. I don't know that you've got a pornography addiction,
Of course not. Right.
but it's like, oh my gosh, every week, every month, I have to look at something, or I'm doing it. Yeah, then I'd say that you've got an issue, and then there's varying degrees of that issue to the point where some people need, extreme therapy, and then some people end up in prison because they can't control themselves. So
Sure.
I think there's a whole lot of different levels of it. But Satan, here's the one thing. I think all of it, Satan wants it to lead to one place, and that's death.
Mm.
It's separation from God.
Mm.
And separation from
Sure.
God is spiritual death, which leads to physical death and eternal separation.
Yeah.
I think that is the journey that you enter into when you start taking those steps with pornography.
Sure. Well, and it creates shame, so we distance from God,
Sure.
but then we're also distancing from ourselves. We also feel that when we're around other people, so there's a distance that we create there as well. So the isolation continues to grow, and as I'm more isolated, I need the addiction more.
Absolutely.
And so it's just this endless
Well, for men in the church, somebody said, I heard this a couple of weeks ago, that there are two kinds of men who have never or don't watch pornography: liars and dead men.
That's it.
I don't know if that's absolutely accurate. I'm sure there's some very godly men who never, ever, ever. But I would venture to say that number is very, very low. So here's the point, that Satan knows that most men, we're very visual, and we're very attracted at looking at unclothed women. And as soon as that happens, then comes the shame and the guilt, and Satan says, you're not worthy.
Right.
You're not worthy. If those people at church would only know who you really are, they wouldn't even talk to you. You'd be kicked out of church. So any of this kind of, I think sex is used by Satan more than anything else to sideline men from positions of leadership.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we're all sinners, whether it be sex or something else. We all have fallen short of the glory of God. And God sent his son and paid this insane price so that we could be completely, not partially, not mostly, but completely forgiven. The Lord does not see us, if you're a follower of Christ, as someone who has got some sin.
Yeah.
He sees us only. He couldn't, because he cannot stand any sin. You can't have even a little bit of sin in God's presence.
Yeah.
So he can't see us as that. He only sees us as covered in the righteousness of his son, of Jesus.
So good. Well, and I think that knowing that we're covered and forgiven breaks that power of shame if we really enter into that, and then it enables us to move toward God, toward our true self, rather than our masked self, and towards other people. And that's relationship is the antidote for addiction. It's the opposite of addiction, and if we can lean in towards that, it's super powerful. But yeah, if you're getting any value from this, please hit the like or subscribe button. Drop a comment. It'd be fun to maybe do a part 2 with you whenever that is possible. And you drop some questions for Raul, questions for Recovery Life Now. I'd be happy to chime in with those. I'm going to read a couple quotes from your book. I love what you're sharing here, and appreciate this. I'm curious. I love, you quoted a gentleman, Ronald Rolheiser. Yeah,
it's a great quote.
It says, "Sex is not just like anything else. Despite our culture's protest, it's fire. It's so powerful, so precious, so close to the heart and soul of a person, and so godly that it either gives life or it takes it away. It can never be casual, but is either a sacrament or a destructive act."
Yeah.
Say more about that. Oh my gosh, like that is...
Well, and I love, see, all over the world, and I've only got a few more minutes, gonna have to pick up my son soon.
Yeah, okay.
All over the world, people don't want to talk about sex. Christians, especially. Actually, Satan wants to talk about it all the time, and the world talks about it. But Christians are like, "Oh no, we can't talk about it." And so, what I love to talk about is what a beautiful thing sex is. What a holy thing sex is. John Piper wrote a book called "Sex and the Supremacy of Christ." That sex is so much more than just a physical action between a man and a woman. And we know that biologically it changes us completely. You literally become one when you are involved in the act of lovemaking. But sex is also this is what Piper is talking about. It gives us a glimpse into the language that allows us to understand how much God loves us and how much we can love God. So see,
can we just say that again? Like, it gives us a glimpse.
It gives us a glimpse into the language. It helps us to understand a glimpse of how much God loves us. The intensity, the overwhelmingness of sex. When you're just going, I just love this person so much, and this feeling right now is the best feeling that I've ever had in my life, or ever will have. Right? That feeling, it gives you a glimpse of what it feels like to be in perfect love, in perfect unity with God.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's so much more. Yeah. So I love helping men, especially, and women, understand the beauty, the sacredness, the unbelievable love that is involved, and why God gave us this precious fire. That's such an all-consuming fire. But when used in the fireplace, right, it gives us intimacy. It gives us love. It gives us comfort. It gives us. It biologically bonds us. There's just so much. But when that fire is outside of the fireplace, then it's all consuming, all destructive, and it's never satisfied. And it just continues until there's nothing left, until everything has been destroyed.
Wow. That is so good. Thank you. That is it's interesting to think of God as a sensual God, that he made us to be sensual beings too.
Listen, we are physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, and sexual beings. And sexual being the last one I mentioned doesn't mean it's the last one. It's equal to all of those. Yeah. Just as much as we're physical beings, just as much as we're emotional and relational and spiritual beings, just as much we are sexual beings, and God made us that way.
Yeah. So good. So good. You're right. We do struggle to talk about it, and it's because, and I think a lot of people go, well, it's every man's battle, and we'll talk about it once in a blue moon, right? Talk about it at a men's group or a men's retreat or whatever. briefly a little bit, it's also a pretty volatile topic because it brings about a lot of frustration for a lot of people.
Mm. Well, the attack against us from Satan is continuous. It's a 24-hour a day. It's through the TV, it's through the music, it's through magazines, it's through every medium, and we know that we are a medium saturated society. So the response needs to be a continuous response. It cannot be a talk once a year. That's insane. And it doesn't mean that we do nothing but talk about sex, but it means that we are continuously in this conversation about sacredness, about holiness, and sex is a part of that. It's a continual conversation of encouragement, of drawing us back to the heart of God, because that's the only way we're going to have God's anointing and the power of the Holy Spirit to not just tear down Satan's attacks against us, but to demolish them. Demolish them.
That's good. That's good.
So it's time for me.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
I have a son that I need to go pick up.
Okay. Well,
so we can do this a part two.
What a pleasure it's been to have you on here. Thank you so much, Raul.
Thank you, Don. This is great. This will be fun.
So good. Time flies when we're having fun and on a good topic and conversing. I definitely have a few more questions for you.
Well, you'll have to have me back.
Sheesh. This is so good. I really appreciate you taking the time to come by and have this conversation with us. And I'm sure some people have got some value out of it as well. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you for the book.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you if they would like to? I have your email address from the book. If you would like me to put that in the show notes.
We can put that out there. Sure. It's rreyes@lifeequipglobal.org. And our ministry, you can get us at www.lifeequipglobal.org. And our ministry is called Life Equip Global.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.